but racism is a pandemic, materialism is a pandemic, nationalism and militarism is a pandemic, income inequality is a pandemic, and mental health is a pandemic, mental health issues. But one of the biggest pandemics is climate change.
One thing that I notice in life is like every time I was showing up for others, at some degree in the end, I was the most benefit from everything. Like I was feeling the fulfillment of being there.
Art, nature, and spirituality are all facets of one reality. They're all an expression of the beautiful, the transcendent, and the divine. We're trying to bring science to the common man because a big part of climate activism needs to be climate communication.
We used to say here in Brazil that it's more likely for someone became a climate refugee than a billionaire.
And humor, music, and arts are what make big ideas and difficult ideas go down smoothly.
Oi, gente, está no ar mais um episódio do CRIA RAIZ, o podcast com a missão de mudar o mundo uma conversa por vez. Eu sou a Kamila Camilo e eu tô muito animada para a conversa de hoje. O nosso convidado ficou mundialmente conhecido por dar vida a um personagem na versão americana da série The Office por mais de 8 anos. E ele não só viveu um personagem, como dirigiu alguns dos episódios durante as 9 temporadas da série. Ele atuou na TV, no cinema, trabalhou com direção, produção, dublagem. Ele apresenta um podcast, já publicou livros e é cofundador do Climate Basecamp, uma organização criada para comunicar as questões climáticas de forma acessível através da cultura. Mas como ele ainda não fala português, a partir de agora essa conversa vai ser em inglês. Mas a gente vai contar com legenda e tradução simultânea automática exclusivamente no YouTube. Seja muito bem-vindo, Rainn Wilson. Hi, Rainn. I'm so happy to have you here today. It's my absolute honor to welcome you so we can deep dive in conversations about climate, career, and talk about life and beyond. I want to know a little bit, how was your childhood and what was the role of nature in your education?
Thank you. I love that question. It's a great place to start. I grew up in suburban Seattle for the most part. When I was a small child, about 2.5 to 3 years old, we moved to Central America, and we lived on the Mosquito coast in Nicaragua, on the Caribbean Ocean.
Yeah.
Right by the ocean in the jungles.
Wow.
And so my earliest experience with nature was running around in the jungle, literally, with big rubber boots on, with clouds of mosquitoes, with monkeys in the trees, banana plants and iguanas in our backyard. And it was like growing up in 100 years of solitude.
Wow.
And so that was amazing. Nature was mysterious and powerful and dangerous. And then we moved back to suburban Seattle. I had learned Spanish as a small child and then completely forgot it because then I was 5 years old living in Washington State. And I grew up a member of the Baha'i faith, Bahai, Baha'i faith. I think there's a pretty good sized Baha'i community in Brazil. And in the Baha'i faith, nature is very cherished. It's very prized. It's really a beautiful manifestation of the divine. Its beauty, its complexity, its power, its majesty, the awe that it invokes is part of a spiritual practice. And so that's always stayed with me even from a young age. I would go camping and hiking up in the woods in Seattle. There's beautiful mountains up there, Cascade Mountains, the Olympic Mountains. It's absolutely gorgeous. And always felt a real profound connection to both the ocean and the mountains.
And regarding your so deep relationship with nature, and your dreams when you're a child, how art and how art and nature plays a part in your desires and envision your future?
Well, great question. Sorry to plug my book,
No worries.
but I wrote this book called Soul Boom,
Yeah.
Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution.
Yeah.
And in it, I talk about how misguided contemporary America is around its relationship with spirituality and the divine. Because as I have explored these topics, as a spiritual searcher, as a member of the Baha'i faith, I see that they're all one. And we have to learn from our indigenous elders, our wisdom keepers,
Yeah.
about the fact that art, nature, and spirituality are all facets of one reality. They're all an expression of the beautiful, the transcendent, and the divine. And they're not God is church on Sundays, and art is something you do as a hobby, and nature is something you go see on a vacation. That the sacredness of nature is synonymous with the beauty and creativity of art. And that's interwoven with God, who is not some bearded old man on a cloud scowling down at us, but
not.
is a force of beauty and love that is in us, without us, in nature, without nature, and is inherent in that creative impulse to create art.
Yeah. That has been any time in your life where your spiritual connection was kind of break or off, and then you need to rescue that, or was always this great connection?
No, that's a great question. There's another book I wrote about my life, and I talk about how when I was in my 20s, I left my faith, and I really wanted nothing to do with God or morality or religion or the soul or any of that stuff. I just wanted to be an artist. I wanted to live in New York City and be an actor. I studied acting. I studied theater. And then I, over the years, I became very, very unhappy. And I had a lot of run-ins with drugs and alcohol and ego and just career ambition and materialism. And I found myself very, very unhappy. And that's when I started really exploring spiritual paths. And that eventually brought me back to the Baha'i faith. But more than brought me back to my faith, it brought me to an understanding that we are spiritual beings
Mm-hmm.
and we're having a human experience.
Definitely.
And that I saw myself as I'm a spiritual adventurer,
Yeah.
and that is my path. And I love to talk about spirituality, even though I'm known as Dwight. I'm known
Yeah.
for playing comedy and being on a sitcom, and I made my living. I made my bread and butter there. The topic that most intrigues me and is most exciting to me is the spiritual path that we all walk.
Definitely. I've been myself in coming back to a spiritual journey recently. I grew up in a Protestant family for 20 years, and now developing my own relationship with the divine has been something different. I remember I had access to nature late in life. I was 19 the first time I saw the ocean for the first time. So,
wow.
And I was I grew up in the outskirts of São Paulo city here in Brazil. And I remember seeing the ocean and thinking that definitely God is not in places that is human made. It's this is God's house if he exists. So that was my kind of awakening moment. And through spirituality, and like listening you talking about like, well, you made your life through comedy and acting. I want to jump in a question that is like most of Brazilians, and I imagine that all your fans asking about. It's that if you see your personality and Dwight's kind of intertwine, has anything from him that is still present in yourself?
Well, people ask me that all the time. How am I like Dwight? And because people meet me and they're kind of astonished to hear and see and witness that I'm actually not really like Dwight very much. But this is what actors do. We transform. You take all the gooey stuff of your childhood. You take your crazy parents and
Your goofiness.
hurts that you've had, traumas you've had, quirks and idiosyncrasies you've developed, and they all become kind of part of your toolkit as an actor. So, I guess I've always been socially awkward. I think Dwight is socially awkward. I was very nerdy for large parts of my childhood. I played Dungeons and Dragons and chess, and I played the bassoon, and I was in the pottery club, and Dwight is very nerdy. I think where we're very different is that Dwight is very rigorous and sees things very black and white. And there's a codification of like a good salesman and a bad salesman.
Yeah.
And a good Schrute and a bad Schrute. And, a good employee of Dunder Mifflin and a bad employee. And he's very rigid in his thinking in a way that I'm not. But I know what it is to be rigid.
Yeah.
I know what it's like. So, I can explore that as an actor as well.
Yeah. And like regarding your personal experience, how you navigate flexibility, how you like personal, because you have your toolkit as an actor, but sometimes it not apply to your own life, how you navigate these transitions.
Yeah. I think Dwight is pretty inflexible.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing I've had to learn as I've grown older is how little is in our control. We think we've got so much in our control, and we just, especially as you get older and people around you start to die, and you realize like how precious life is. And now I'm almost 60. I'm in the last quarter of my life here, and every day is a precious gift. And that's the ultimate flexibility, is to recognize how little we're in control and how precious life is.
Yeah, and how we can do our best with the time that we have, right? I think one thing that I saw in common between you two is like his farm background and your early childhood in nature. But I want to ask you about how, like, when your life, nature became a cause, and not just like something that you experience on your spiritual pathway, but became a cause for fight for you.
Well, my cause is not so much nature. My cause is the healing of humanity.
Yeah.
And one of the things I talk about in Soul Boom is how there are all these pandemics in the world. I wrote it during the COVID pandemic, but racism is a pandemic, materialism is a pandemic, nationalism and militarism is a pandemic, income inequality is a pandemic, and mental health is a pandemic, mental health issues. But one of the biggest pandemics is climate change. And climate change is a signifier of how out of balance things are.
Yeah.
And this is not about passing some laws. We can pass some laws, but then other people will get elected and they'll take away those laws. It's not about legislation, although legislation is important. It's about what I call in Soul Boom a spiritual revolution, where we completely change our hearts in terms of our relationship to planet Earth, where it becomes our mother again,
Yeah.
our supporter, and we respect it as sacred, and we revel in our awe of it and our wonder at it. And we fight, live, and die to protect it. As we fight, live, and die to protect each other and the people that are suffering among us. And to bring that Jesus-like universal love, not just to our neighbors, but to planet Earth itself. And this is part of a much larger disease where, you know, humanity is trying to exploit planet Earth, and we need to think about regenerating
Yeah.
nature and planet Earth.
And talking
And
Sorry. Talking about regeneration and like these need for action, do you have like a day, a moment where you realize that being a keyboard warrior wasn't enough anymore? Like there's a moment that you record or,
yeah, absolutely. I realized at a certain point in time, the only thing that I was doing for the environment was sending out some angry tweets. Now it's X, sending out some angry tweets on X. I don't know how you say it. And getting in debates with climate change deniers and getting very upset. And I realized, Rainn, you have a big platform. You have something to say. You need to get off your butt and do something about it. And that's when I got involved with an organization called Arctic Basecamp. And now we have a spin-off organization called Climate Basecamp, where we're trying to speak the truth to culture. We're trying to bring science to the common man, because a big part of climate activism needs to be climate communication.
Definitely.
And, there's a certain amount of people who are fighting for climate change issues, environmental issues. Talking to other people that care about environmental issues is important. But we need to be trying to reach people that are disaffected, dissatisfied, shut out, skeptical, curious, don't know what to think, are overwhelmed. Our messaging needs to be for them. Maybe not to the climate change deniers. In the United States, we have a very large population of people that think that climate change science is a liberal conspiracy. So we're never going to reach them. We're never going to change their minds.
Yeah.
So how do you reach what we call the movable middle?
Yeah.
That's what we try to do at Climate Basecamp, through humor, through storytelling, through film, digital media, social media campaigns. This is what we're trying. It's struggling and failing, but we are trying to get off the ground.
Yeah. So the Arctic Basecamp is something that we have very common, that we have in common. This year, I was camping with Dr. Gail at Davos, and it was a life-changing experience. Just like not because I was in the camp with a group of like very caring people, but because everyone that I was talking to was like impressed by a physical movement in the Alps somehow. And we got a chance to partner with the Climate Basecamp to bring to Brazil Save the Flavors campaign, and has been such a success for us. Yeah, we went on TV, like our national TV, with the Save the Flavors campaign, our version. And so it's like, and you were talking back like in New York about pistache and other flavors, and here the endangered flavors was acai, coffee, and cocoa. Chocolate is a big thing for us, right? And I just saw like how powerful having humor and a campaign like that in Brazil materialized. So like it was actually like amazing have the chance to bridge the gap between those conversations. And like, this is a personal question right now, is like, how was your experience at the Arctic Basecamp?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the nonprofit organization called Arctic Basecamp, one of the things they do is they bring scientific research tents to Davos, Switzerland, to the World Economic Forum, where all the fanciest, richest people and CEOs and heads of state come to talk about big issues. And Climate Basecamp, Arctic Basecamp rather, gives demonstrations about climate science and how it's affecting the Arctic specifically to people that are passing by this really beautiful, fancy hotel. And they have climate scientists and activists staying in tents outside. When the first night was there, it was about 20 degrees below zero.
Whoa.
It was so cold. It was crazy. And then we got to meet, CEOs and heads of state and activists from all over the world. It was a really exciting, beautiful experience. And since then, I've worked with Dr. Gail Whiteman to produce videos and help with campaigns like Save the Flavors campaign. And it's so wonderful what you guys are doing in Brazil with that campaign, to use humor and music and arts and storytelling to message the issues that matter. In this case, so many flavors that we love are going to double, triple in price and are going to become much more difficult to obtain.
Yeah.
Because of climate change specifically. So if you don't want to make changes in your life or in your vote or in your government because it doesn't hit close to home, you need to understand that maybe if you understand that the flavors that you love are in danger, that can motivate you, inspire someone to action.
There's any flavors that is close to your heart, and if life is gone now, will be sad for you?
What about pistachios? For me, my favorite ice cream is pistachio ice cream.
Yeah, that would be sad. It's one of my favorites.
That's one. Vanilla. There's so many. So many.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about regarding climate, and like regular people, they relate to floods and wildfires. Like they are experience those things, but sometimes it's just this collective trauma that we are not prepared to deal with. And we used to say here in Brazil that it's more likely for someone became a climate refugee than a billionaire. And my question for you in this case is how you deal with the individual and collective trauma, how you take care of yourself in this process.
Oh, what a wonderful question. Thank you. Climate change hits home for me because I lost half of my house in a fire recently as one of the wildfires that were spreading across Southern California. You might have seen some really big wildfires in Altadena or the Pacific Palisades. Ours was a smaller fire, but was part of that same wave of fires. We lost 60 trees on our property, half our house, and it's been the driest 25 years in California over the last 1,200 years.
Wow.
That they could determine. So climate change events that used to happen every 1,000 years are now happening every 100 years. And climate events that used to happen every 100 years are now happening every 10 years. So extreme weather events is kind of the number one way that people can understand that the climate is changing and that humanity is affecting that change. So it's been really a struggle for us. Speaking of trauma, we had to relocate. We're rebuilding. Even now, I'm sitting in my son's room, which I've made into my office. Those are my clothes because my closet burned down. My clothes are on a clothes rack. We don't have anything hung on the walls. We're lucky. We had insurance. I've got enough money. I'm lucky. But when climate change events affect people without resources, like they have in floods in Texas and Kentucky, in hurricanes in North Carolina, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
So, for me, my spiritual practice, prayer and meditation really helps me center myself and heal myself and heal my trauma.
Yeah, and I'm reading a book called Disasterology from a doctor named Samantha Montano. She moved to New Orleans when she was 16 to help rebuild after Katrina. And I was reading a little bit about like the role of FEMA and EPA, and now we're just saying that it's like those government entities are dismantled, and people are gonna suffer even more. How do you see the future of the U.S. citizens, especially regarding climate, with those organizations like just running over right now?
Well, the difficult thing in the United States right now, and I know that Brazil and the United States in some ways are kind of sister democracies, and we have a lot of the same issues going on.
Yeah.
There is so much chaos in Washington, D.C. right now that people can't keep track. There's war in Gaza and Ukraine and Putin, and then there's a tariff war, and we're battling our best friend Canada, and vaccines and the Epstein files. And so the fact that the Environmental Protection Agency recently is coming out to say that the science of climate change is not real, and that it's going to increase coal and petroleum production and not limit pollution, I never thought in 2025 we would reach this kind of low. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard for people to know where to put their focus. Mm-hmm. So one of the points I make in Soul Boom is where there are forces of integration, and there are forces of disintegration. And we need to harness our will and our work with the forces of integration wherever we can find them. Wherever people are bringing other people together and creating community and building with love. And that's where we need to put our focus and put our time and attention.
Definitely. And talking about that, do you see, like, I see that the dystopian version that we have, either about future or daily life, comes a lot from Hollywood, like 30 years, 100 years watching movies that just bring to us a future that it's like destruction, build this kind of state of mind that is like, okay, everything is gonna burn and go out. Like, how do you see the role of the industry on reshaping the minds and hearts and literally guiding people to a more like kind of, I don't want to say like spiritual future, but like a more connected to nature future?
I think that Hollywood plays a very important role in this, but I also think that people creating media all over the world, whether they have their own YouTube channel or like you, a podcast or social media, there's lots of storyteller creators out there. Not just we can't wait for Hollywood to make movies that are about healing the earth and bringing people together. Hollywood's going to make movies wherever the money is.
Yeah.
If it's superhero movies, they're going to make superhero movies. If it's Fast and the Furious movies, they're going to make those. So if you want to consume content that's good for humanity and good for the planet and spend your money there, that's a great thing to do. Because otherwise, it's capitalism. They're just going to make whatever kind of content where they can make some dollars. But it's important for all people that are artists and storytellers to be somehow or other, in small ways and big ways. It doesn't mean that it has to be sappy and moralistic. One way or another, we need to be looking at healing people, bringing them together, and bringing kind of a healing, regenerative energy into our storytelling practice.
Yeah. Do you have like kind of steps, or I don't know, I don't want to say formula, but it's like how, if you are like was maybe guiding a healing process for a community or a group of people, like where we can start?
Well, That's a great question. One of the things I love is I love my faith tradition. I love the Baha'i faith. And all over the world, the Baha'is are building community. And they start with the children and teach spiritual virtues and character qualities to children. And they form youth groups and empower teenagers to take charge and make change in their communities. And they pray together and meditate together, do service projects together. So I do think that religion and spiritual practice can provide a tremendous amount of healing. So like I said, it's about aligning yourself with the forces of integration.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Baha'i faith, whether it's an activist group, whether it's a nonprofit, a school, a church group, whatever it is, to find the people that are creating community and building it together. It can be on a very small level,
Yeah.
right? It could be on a cul-de-sac, in an apartment building, at a school, at a church, on a very small village. Anytime they're saying no to cutting down forest and building another big box store, and anytime they're trying to regenerate, preserve, love, and sacralize nature and humanity, be a part of that. Find that and be a part of it. It takes a little work, though. It's hard.
Yeah.
It takes work.
Yeah, like you were talking about teenagers. I had a chance to be facilitating a group of teenagers last month. And it was shock for me. It was a shock for me seeing how many of them were struggling with mental health, all working at some degree with climate issues in their communities. And I've seen them losing their faith in humanity. I don't know what to do. I think people are empty of we want to be hopeful, but build hope requires work, as you were talking about. And talking around storytelling and maybe how humor can help bring storytelling in a way that it's more relatable to people. Can you share a little bit, how was your experience bringing humor to connect people to the climate issues? I wish I could be in New York when you were delivering ice cream to people. But how was that part of the process and on building a climate movement and community?
Here's the deal. Sometimes when you're feeding a kid broccoli, you've got to put a little chocolate on top of it.
Yeah.
Call it chocolate covered broccoli. So the stuff that's good, you've got to cover with something maybe a little sweet. And humor, music, and arts are what make big ideas and difficult ideas go down smoothly.
Yeah.
So anyone working in whatever field you're working in, academics, education, healthcare, agriculture, climate, social justice, whatever it is, you've got to find a way to bring in more humor, more art, more music, to make it. No one wants to be lectured to. No one wants to be told what to do. No one wants to be made to feel ashamed, scolded. So we have to educate using these tools. It's really important. And it's especially important with young people that are dealing with mental health issues. This is all over the world. I think a lot of it has to do with social media, the amount of time we spend looking at our screens instead of time that we could spend, connecting and building community and being with each other. Those aspects are really important. Again, it's about storytelling. What makes a great story?
Mm-hmm.
Humor, music, fun.
Yeah.
Even if the subject is really, is really quite serious. You've got to put a little chocolate on the broccoli.
Yeah. So how you nourish your own joy?
I play a lot of tennis.
Okay, nice.
I walk my dogs. I spend time with my family. And every morning I sit in prayer and meditation. And I have a spiritual practice that brings me a lot of serenity
Yeah.
and meaning.
Like, do you feel that do you feel friendship is important? Like, how better than do you feel it's like, what is the role of friendship on keeping you going? I see like we are facing a crisis of friendship. I saw the average American is saying that they had one friend in life. Like Mark Zuckerberg are creating AIs to be friends of people. So definitely a loneliness crisis right now. So like how you create your own community and like beyond your family.
Community is so important. It's so important. And it's true. And one of the areas where people are not making friends, I mean, teenagers are now kind of the loneliest generation. Kids on college campuses where they are surrounded by other kids and they are surrounded by dormitories and activities and plays and concerts. And this is the loneliest generation. And adult males my age often have as their only friend is like their wife. So it's all about building community, and we've lost community, and social media and screens have really eaten into that. So I find it in my faith community, in the Baha'i faith. I find it playing tennis with my friends. I find it in 12-step program of recovery. There's a lot of places I look for intimate friendships. And it's crucial. We're a social species.
Yeah.
We're like an elephant would die alone at the zoo. Like we need our tribe. We need our community.
Yeah, we definitely need our people. I was like, has been hard for me to find my own people. And like I've been attending in a lot of global stages and events like the World Economic Forum, the UN climate conferences. Do you see still value on going to those places? Maybe not to find community, but like get together with people that are doing something. I still value on those organizations and movements that are so big, or like in some degree we should go more and more local?
I think local is the key. I think local is the way to go. I think, if you have an opportunity to speak to a larger audience on a larger stage, fine. But a lot of the work that I do is also local. And I think that's crucial. It's really about sacrifice. It's all about sacrifice. So what do you think of when I use the word sacrifice? Tell me.
What I envision when I heard the word sacrifice, there's two things. I saw all the things that my mom gave up so I could grow up with my siblings, like literally, kind of being selfless and like it's not about me, it's about the others. And I have this very Christian vision of sacrifice on like Jesus Christ in the cross dying for everybody. So it's literally like you lose something for the greater good of others, even if it costs you something.
Right, but that sacrifice does not need to be your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of people don't understand, because they are thinking on a Christian thing. They're thinking about being on a cross and giving up their life. Yeah. I'm going to give up my life for the sins of humanity. Or like your mom, I'm going to give up my whole life to raise a family, and I'm not going to live a happy, fulfilled life, but I want things. But sacrifice can also mean 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week that you're going to spend not watching TV, not on social media, not on your phone, not with your friends, but volunteering somewhere in a cause that you believe in. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Rescuing pets, cleaning up the beach, a political party, a nonprofit, raising money. That's a sacrifice. You're sacrificing 1 hour of your time and of your comfort for a cause that's greater than yourself. 1 hour a week. That's all it took. Can you imagine if we had 7 billion people on planet Earth? 7 billion people. And every week, 7 billion hours were being spent, sacrificed to a cause that was important to them, especially one on the local level. We could change the world. We absolutely could change the world. But a lot of people are not even willing to give up 1 hour per week. They could talk about it, they could tweet about it, post about it. But when it comes to rolling up your sleeves, giving 1 hour, showing up, people aren't willing to do the work. And until we are, nothing's going to change.
Do you know why people are not willing to sacrifice?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard. People, the Buddha teaches that people don't want to suffer and people want to feel pleasure.
Yeah.
And we're hardwired in this way. The dance we have is between our moral aspirations and our baser needs.
Yeah.
This is in every spiritual tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd much rather watch Netflix or look at Instagram than show up at some community center and help put together a service project. Because it's hard.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's hard. People don't like to do what's hard. So that's a sacrifice.
Yeah. Still talking about sacrifice. Because one thing that I notice in life is like every time I was showing up for others, at some degree in the end, I was the most benefit from everything. Like I was feeling the fulfillment of being there. And like it is this way, like we see just the challenge of the beginning without seeing the possibilities of the future. There's any way to kind of bring people together for this? Like, there's any way of talking to them? I don't know if it's talking sense or something. Do you see anything that is possible in this way?
Well, there's a lot of topics you're talking about. One has to do with positive psychology and with spiritual practice, which is one way to be less lonely, one way to heal trauma, one way to build community, and one way to be happier is to spend some time serving others. Because we live in a culture that's all about me, me, me.
Yeah.
Self-centered, it's serving ourselves, taking care of ourselves. So the psychological and spiritual benefits of being of service to other people is really astonishing. So it's the world needs it, our hearts need it, our brains need it, and we have to kind of rewire ourselves to think about like what's going to make me happy is not just focusing on myself, not being self-centered, but being other-centered.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time with indigenous communities, and they are all about like it's the child is in the center, and then nature is in the center, and then the whole community is built. It's about like built around those that are like that bring joy, that envision the future. There's any like there's any parts of your activism that makes you envision a future that is more bright? Like how if you had if you ruled the world and you had a chance to design this much better future, what would be?
I believe that the future has to come from a spiritual revolution.
Yeah.
That connecting hearts and souls with compassion and community and love and mutuality and service is the path forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are many, many things broken about the world. Agriculture is broken. Environment is broken. Healthcare is broken. International trade is broken. War and militarism is broken. The list goes on and on and on. Education. So to address these larger issues, we have to heal the essential wound, the essential disease, the essential imbalance, which is spiritual, not political.
Mm-hmm.
So politics can be important and play an important role, and legislation can be very important as well. But underlying all of that is bringing people together and increasing love and creating bonds of unity between people of different skin colors, between people of different classes, people of different religions, people of different political beliefs. Again, it's easier said than done, and probably best done on the local level.
Yeah.
But it's about building community.
And I heard, during my research for this conversation, I jumped to a phrase of yours that was like, world peace is possible, even inevitable. How?
Well, when I was younger, people used to talk about world peace a great deal.
Yeah.
And in the 70s, we would even dream about it and think about it. We kind of thought, when communism fell, we'll have world peace. And then communism fell in the mid-late 80s. And everyone was like, secular humanism is going to fix everything. And materialism is going to fix everything. And definitely the standard of living went up all around the world, especially from the 80s and 90s. But world peace is inevitable. It's going to happen. There may just be a couple thousand of us left on the planet in order to create world peace. We may blow ourselves up along the way. We're going to get there eventually, and we'll learn from our mistakes. Humanity is in, as they say in the Baha'i faith, humanity is in its turbulent adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
And we will go through this really difficult, turbulent adolescence where we're fighting and rebelling and thrashing and, kind of acting on our most base impulses. And we'll get out the other side. Now, do we want to cause mass devastation on our way there, or just a little bit of devastation? But there is going to be suffering. There's going to be a lot of suffering ahead over the next 100 years. There really is. And a lot of innocent people are going to suffer. A lot of indigenous people are going to suffer. A lot of people of color are going to suffer, especially. But on the other side, we have to believe that world peace is possible and inevitable.
Yeah. I don't know, sometimes for me to build hope that peace is possible is just almost like I can reach this type of thought most of the days. It's just open the newspaper and or even crossing the streets nowadays, and I don't know, I really don't know, listening to you has bringing me a lot of thoughts. I'm definitely gonna have a lot of things to talk with my therapist today. Because finding peace has been really hard, Do you feel that this is the moment in humanity where we're gonna find that are gonna find the bridge between people. I don't know, like, if it's just the interest or the economics, but this way of seeing things in a very individualistic way, it's broken everyone. There's any way for us to be more collective?
Yeah, I think we have to be, I think we have to be. And thank you for sharing your heart with me, and thank you for sharing your tears. And I can see how much this moves you, how important this is to you. And I'm really honored to be having this conversation with you. And really, truly, thank you for the work you're doing and the conversations you're having. Thanks for your big heart.
Thank you.
Thanks for working with Dr. Gail Whiteman and Save the Flavors campaign.
Definitely.
These kind of conversations are the most important conversations we can be having. So you're doing your part just by having these conversations. And if we get people thinking and we get them feeling, we can overcome what divides us.
Definitely. Our last question in the program usually is, what are your dreams for the future? I've been listening you talking about peace, so I imagine that is something around that. But if you can say to people here in Brazil, do just like one thing to keep their hopes really high, what would be?
That's a beautiful question. My hope and dream for the future is, because I've been playing a lot of tennis, I want to win a 4.0 tennis tournament. USTA tennis tournament. That's
awesome.
Number one. I'd like to get another television show as well.
Yeah.
But I think what people can do is get to know one neighbor that you haven't met before, and plant a tree and bring people together to sing, to pray, to dance, to laugh. Start there. Start small.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rainn, for being here, for sharing so much. It was really, really important for me to listen to you. And I hope this conversation can reach a lot of hearts here in Brazil and beyond. Really, really happy to have you here in the show. Thank you.
It's such an honor and a pleasure. Thank you. I'm glad this worked out. I'm so happy to be able to be on the show. And thank you for your amazing work.
Amazing. We finished. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Muito obrigada para você que acompanhou a gente até aqui, que ficou com a gente nessa conversa e segue criando raízes com a gente. Esse é o último episódio da nossa temporada, mas eu espero que você continue com a gente nas próximas e que o seu coração tenha sido tocado como o nosso também foi. Você pode interagir com a gente através das nossas redes sociais, dos comentários aqui no vídeo. Pode clicar nos links que a gente vai deixar disponível aqui na descrição do episódio. Não esquece de se inscrever no canal, de curtir esse vídeo, de participar com a gente, enviar essa conversa para quem você conhece. O CRIA Raiz conta com o apoio do Instituto Clima e Sociedade e do Instituto Arapiaú. E eu espero você na próxima temporada.